So we're going to look at problem number 18 first. Now 18, so again, we're going to add all the angles together. So we'll have x plus 143 plus 2x plus 152 plus 116 plus 125 plus 140 plus 139. So we have all these angles. Now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 angles. So we do need to find the sum of the interior angles. So that's going to be our 8 minus 2 times 8 minus 2 times 180, which is 1,080. So we needed that to figure out the sum of the interior angles. Now at this point here, we can add our like terms together. So we do have 3x, because we have x plus 2x is 3x. So we do 143 plus 152 plus 116 plus 125 plus 140 plus 139. Which should give us 815. At this point here, we can subtract 815 from both sides, which will tell us that 3x is equal to 265. And the last thing we can do is divide both sides by 3, telling us that x is equal to 88 1/3. Because in the decimal, or as the calculator will say, it's 0.3 repeated, and 0.3 repeated is 1/3. And since it was just asking for the value of x, that is our answer. 18. 24. So did you get 23?
Yeah.
So we'll do 20 first. So 20, our angles that are given are 47, 119, 90, x, and x. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So since it's 5 sides, this is 540, because we can do 5 minus 2, which is 3, times 180 is 540. Now if we add all these together, x plus x is 2x. Now 119 plus 90 is going to be 209. 6, carry the 1, so I think it should be 306. But 10 plus 119 plus 90, 256 is equal to 540. At this point here, we can subtract 256 from both sides, telling us that 2x is equal to 6. Because this would be 3, 4, 4, 13, 8, 284. And if we divide both sides by 2, x is equal to 142. And since it asked for the measure of both of those angles, yeah, so the measure of angle y is equal to the measure of angle x, which is equal to 142 degrees. Now the last one we have, so we're adding all those angles up. So we have 50 plus 48 plus 59 plus x plus x. Yes, this is 24. So we have all these angles added together and they equal what? Sum of the exterior angles is always 360. So we have 2x plus. I'm going to go on and just use a calculator to make sure that we do get the correct answer. 254 is equal to 360. At this point, we can subtract 254 from both sides. Yep, adding the like terms. Divide by 2. X is 53. There you go.
I added 50 to one of the x's because I was like going around the circle.
And yeah, it's very easy to go one more than you need to. So especially on those there, if you want to for yourself, put a mark where you start. That way when you get back to it, you don't repeat. Because I'll do that with counting sides. I'll mark as I go so I know I don't recount a side. Now, what we're talking about today is a special type of quadrilateral. We're talking about parallelograms. Now, by definition, a parallelogram is a quadrilateral with two sets of parallel sides. Is a quadrilateral with two sets of parallel sides. And as we go through this, we want to define or call a quadrilateral, we want to call these shapes by their most specific name. So if we have a four-sided figure, it's going to be a quadrilateral. If we know that two sets of the sides, if we have two sets of parallel sides, we're not going to call it a quadrilateral, we'll call it a parallelogram. And if we get more information than that, then we're going to call it its most specific name. Questions on this so far? Now, if a quadrilateral is a parallelogram, so if we have a parallelogram, then its opposite sides are congruent. If it is a parallelogram, then the opposite sides are congruent. So we'll have two sets of congruent sides. Also, if it is a quadrilateral, if a quadrilateral is a parallelogram, then the opposite angles are congruent. So the opposite sides are going to be congruent and the opposite angles are congruent. So looking at this here, we want to find the value of x and y. Well, this quadrilateral is a parallelogram because we do have two sets of parallel sides. So it means the opposite sides are congruent. Hope if I have. That means that these two sides are congruent and these two. It also means the opposite angles are congruent. In between x and y is going to be the easier one to find. Y is what? Well, and we know that x plus 4 is equal to 12. So to find the value of x, yep. So y is 65 and x is 8. That's it. Questions on this here? Any questions on any of this so far? Are we ready for the next one? So again, we want to find the value of x and y. Since this is a parallelogram, it means the opposite sides are congruent. And the opposite angles are congruent. So that tells us that 2x is equal to 54 and 3y minus 1 is equal to 20. Well, x is a little bit easier to solve because all we need to do is divide both sides by 2, telling us x is so if we add 1, telling us 3y is yes. Then we divide by 3, telling us y is equal to 7. Questions on this here? good with this so far. Are you ready for the next one? So we want to find the measure of angle G. Well, G and E are going to be, so the measure of angle G is what is GF going to be? 8, because these two sides are congruent. Any other questions on this here? Do we need to see another example of one of these? Well, Y is 15, and X is going to be 25. Just so that y'all have it. Yep. Now, this here, we're not going to really write anything for this slide. It's more we're going to talk through it. The consecutive interior angles theorem, theorem 3.4, states that if two parallel lines are cut by a transversal, like we have here, then the pair of consecutive interior angles formed are supplementary. Then these two add together to be 180. We've had that. We covered that before Christmas break, and that's something that we have. So two parallel lines cut by a transversal. A pair of consecutive angles in parallelograms is like a pair of consecutive interior angles between parallel lines. Two parallel lines cut by a transversal. So what that means for us is that if a quadrilateral is a parallelogram, then its consecutive angles are supplementary. It doesn't matter which direction we go. These two and these two here are going to be supplementary angles. Or it could go the other direction. We can say these two and these two are supplementary angles. No matter which way we go, the consecutive angles are going to be supplementary.
Y plus X will always be supplementary.
Well, not all three, just the two. Now, another theorem we have is that the diagonals of a parallelogram bisect each other. They're going to cut each other in half. And whenever we talk about bisector, angle bisector, segment bisector, it's just cutting them in half. So for here, the diagonals of a parallelogram bisect each other. They cut each other in half. So, looking at these next few, we're going to find all four angles. Now, all of these here are going to be parallelograms. We're going to state that at the offset. So all of these here are parallelograms. So if angle U is 80, which other angle do we know for sure? W, what is angle W? 80 degrees, okay. Now we need to find angle V and angle X. Because we know that these two angles here will add together to be 180. So we can take 180 and subtract 80 from it, which gives us 100 degrees. So we can say angle V is 100 degrees. But what do we know about opposite angles in a parallelogram? They are. So angle X has to be 100. What would we get if we added all four of these angles together? 360. It's a four-sided figure. Yep. And the sum of the exterior angles of a four-sided figure is incidentally 360. So let's do one more of these here. Then we'll move on to the next type. Which one do we know for sure? L is 98. Opposite angles in a parallelogram are congruent.
So 180 minus 98.
Yes. 180 minus 98. So the other two angles are 82 degrees. Questions on this here? I think we feel comfortable with this. How about this one? Okay. So, angle Y is what? 60. It's kind of nice to know we don't absolutely have to know it, but $52 in our missing angle and angle W are consecutive angles, yes? As a whole. So these two angles plus 60 should be what? 180. So we can say our missing angle X plus 52 plus 60 is 180 degrees. Yes. So we have 112 is equal to 180. So we can minus 112. So our missing angle is 68 degrees. Questions on this here? Now we can find the other two angles. Because find the missing measures. So we could find it, it's not too bad. Because we could find the whole angle, but we also...
It's just like the same. Yeah.
So what would this one be? 68, and this is 52. And I mean, we could verify that because they are two triangles, yes? So 60 plus 68 plus 52 is, well, 68 and 52, 0 is 120, and 120 plus 60 is, sum of the interior angles of a triangle is 180. So that is it. Questions on this here? Do we need to see any other example of one of these? Which one? This one, yes? Because I think we feel comfortable with the previous type, yes? It's not any different, it's just, it looks different. Now this one here is kind of the same thing. It looks different, but the properties still hold true. With 9x plus 15 and 6x plus 15, they're consecutive interior angles, yes? So what do those two angles do? They're supplementary. They add together to be, so 9x plus 15 plus 6x plus 15 equals 180. So 9x plus 6x is x, 15 plus 15 is, then we would minus 30 from both sides, which tells us that 15x is equal to 115. Then we would divide both sides by 15, telling us x is equal to, any questions on how we found x? We're good with finding x. Now we plug it back in. So we can say 9 times 10. 9 times 10 is 90. Plus 15 is 105. So the measure of angle U is 105. It also means angle W is 105. Yes. 6 times 10 is 60, plus 15, 75. And it does work out that 75 plus 105 is still 180. Any questions on any of this here? Kind of like this chapter so far? Find the missing measure. So we're not going to be able to find all the lengths. We're only going to be able to find one or two. Now Km is the entire length, and we're told that it is 23.4. The diagonals of a parallelogram bisect each other. And again, these are still parallelograms. So yes, we divide it by 2. So we can take 23.4, because again, we're cutting it in half. We can divide it by 2. And exactly, 23.4 divided by 2 is 11.7. So that tells us that Ym is 11.7. What's Yk? 11.7, because those two lengths are the same. Do we know what Yj is? Well, no, we don't have any reference to the other diagonal, because we would need to know Yj, Yl, or Lj. We would need to know one of those segments. The problem itself just asks for it, but since it's the same as Ym, not that much extra. Questions on this here? RT is 19.8. What is TP? So RP is the whole thing. So we could say 19.8 plus 19.8. Carry the 1. We'd add the 1. So RP is or we could have multiplied 19.8 by 2. Either one works. Yep. So, dry skin. Yeah. So, looking at this here, we want to find the value of x. Now, they tell us that UH is 19 and FH is 5x minus 7. UH is half. So the other is also 19, yes? Which means the whole length is how long? 38. Yes. So now we just need to solve. So the first thing we can do is add 7 to both sides, yes. So that tells us that 5x is equal to, then we would. So x is 9. Any questions on this here? I believe this here is the last one, yes? So let's see what we have before we jump to any conclusion. So KU is 3x plus 3. UM is, so they just gave us the two lengths, the two sides of the diagonal, which means these two are congruent. Well, since we have an equal sign, we can subtract 3x first, which will tell us 3 is equal to x minus 4. Then we would add 4 minus x is. If we needed to find the lengths, we could plug it back in and then simplify, and that'd be it. Any questions on any of this here? And that is it. Yep, 3 through 8, 10 through 16 even, 17 through 20. Yep. Yeah, no, if I do even for 3 through 8 or odd for each one, I will put it repeatedly after it.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.